Embarrassed enough, thank you. A warm evening to everyone, and a big thank you to the organizing committee for having me here. I'm going to be speaking and taking ahead from where Mithun left us with this magical innovation. I think when you talk in terms of the pill, the innovation in a pill, I can only think of one other previous pill that everybody was so excited was, and that was blue-colored diamond-shaped pill, which many here may be using as well. And post Viagra, it's this one that creates this kind of an excitement. So let's hear it. This is my financial disclosure. Had Mithun told me about the red shirt and how to become a millionaire, I probably would not have had to take this financial commitment. So the agenda that I'll be speaking on is pioneering, and that's because the entire phase 3 trial for this wonderful molecule, the oral semaglutide, has been the pioneer series of trials. Mind you, everything I speak here may be a question in the upcoming quiz finals as well. And for that quiz, there is audience participation. All of you are also going to be playing in this format, so I urge all of you to attend. I'm going to be talking about the overview of the clinical development program. And trust me, my CV did say that I've been a principal investigator for various NCEs, and over the last 12 to 14 years, I've been involved in various trials with most companies that do trials in India. And Novo Nordisk has one of the most robust clinical development programs. So it's always a pleasure to be associated in their clinical development program, and you'll see the data that you have for this kind of a molecule. Pioneering a new era, that will be the second part of the agenda, and then management in routine clinical practice. So let me start with the first part of the overview of the clinical development program here. So oral semaglutide, pioneering clinical trials. You talk about 24 clinical pharmacologic trials, that's huge. One phase 2 trial, which is required mandatory, and then 10 phase 3A trials. And large amount of data that I'll be sharing today is from these phase 3A trials. About 9,500 subjects enrolled, which gives an exposure to oral semaglutide of more than 5,000 patient years. The Pioneer phase 3 clinical program, so your Pioneer 1, and again, mind you, any of this could be a question for the upcoming quiz in terms of the trial numbers, so pay attention. The Pioneer 1 is the monotherapy one versus placebo. The Pioneer 2 was where it was versus an SGLT2, and this is add-on to the base drug, which is metformin usually. So 2 is versus SGLT2 inhibitor, Pioneer 3 versus DPP4, Pioneer 4 versus a GLP1 vis-a-vis the placebo. Pioneer 7 was a flexible dose adjustment with DPP4 with an extension phase. Then you had the Pioneer 8, which was add-on to insulin, and everywhere there has been Indian participation in the trials. You see our tricolor up there. Then you had trials in special population. Renal impairment was Pioneer 5. Pioneer 6 is the cardiovascular outcome trials. For those of you who understand Novo Nordisk new drug trials, the 6th number, whether it's Sustain 6 or Pioneer 6, is always going to be a CVOT. So easy to remember that. And then you had 2 Japanese trials. Well, the Japanese always need their own trials, and there are specific protocols for most drugs to be introduced in the Japanese market. That's been 9 and 10, and which is with versus liraglutide and dulaglutide. And then there's an ongoing trial, which is SOUL. Again, our center is happy to be a part of this. This is a cardiovascular outcome trial. So this is the second cardiovascular outcome trial after the Pioneer 6, and which has about 788 Indian subjects. Now, if you look at the baseline characteristics for the placebo trials, you will see some heterogeneity there, of course, based on the duration of diabetes. For monotherapy, 3.5 years. For the other two, about 14, 15 years, because you're talking about moderate renal impairment or an add-on to insulin. The BMI is largely between 31 to 33. The A1C at baseline about 8, so pretty well distributed there. You move on to see the baseline characteristic for the comparator trials in this program. Again, you see the age, the average age at about 55. The duration of diabetes anywhere between 7 to 9 years in the Pioneer 2, 3, 4, and 7 trials. The BMI again somewhere between 31 and 33. The baseline HbA1c between around 8 to 8.3. So these are the baseline characteristics for this huge array of clinical trial program. You look at the endpoints in the Pioneer program. You look at Pioneer 1, which is placebo, 5 and 8. You talk about the primary endpoint here is the change in HbA1c. The secondary endpoint has been the change in body weight. And that's important because weight, as we understand, is one of the major other benefits of the GLP-1 therapy. And we've seen some magical results here again with the oral semaglutide form. You look at the Pioneer 6, which was the cardiovascular outcome trial, and the primary endpoint was the time to the first 3-point MACE. And you had the secondary endpoints in terms of the expanded composite of the CV endpoints. Pioneer 7, which was again the add-on to the insulin, you're talking about proportion of patients achieving A1C less than 7%. Again, the secondary endpoint being change in body weight. Now, we look at the change in HbA1c at the end of the treatment, and you look at the data from Pioneer 1 to 5, 7, and 8, and you see the data, and this is for semaglutide 3 milligram, Sema 7, Sema 14, and where it's been compared with either placebo or with a comparator drug. And you'll be pleased to see the kind of data that we're seeing. So you're seeing an A1C reduction to the tune of 1.5 reduction. Again, let me remind you, the baseline HbA1c was how much here? Around 8. So if you're starting with a baseline of 8 and you're getting an A1C reduction of 1.3, 1.5, that's a wow factor that we say for any drug. So you look at in comparison with empagliflozin, Sema 14 milligram showing you a 1.3% reduction as compared to 0.8 for the EMPA 25 milligram. You look at Pioneer 3, which was versus sitagliptin. Well, clearly a GLP-1 is going to outscore DPP-4 by much, much higher. And here you're looking at a 0.7 with 7 milligram and 1.1. The reason we also focus on 7 milligram is once we're going to have this drug in the market, we're going to start with 3. And the way we have seen with GLPs, we'll definitely go up to 7. And where indicated, we may go up to 14. Maybe in all the patients, we may not use 14. And hence, the data for 7 milligram is as important for all of us to remember. You look at versus liraglutide, you're getting slightly better reduction as compared to 1.8 milligram of lira. You get for 14 milligram of Sema, you're getting a 1.2% HbA1c reduction, again with a baseline of 8%. Pioneer 5, which was the renal versus placebo, you're seeing good reduction in HbA1c, GLP-1s across. In fact, what they have seen is there is no really lower limit for oral semaglutide or Rybelsus in terms of when do you stop it. So we know for the other GLPs, you had earlier cutoffs at 45, then 30, and then 15. There's really no cutoff here for oral semaglutide. You can continue to use it even in end-stage renal disease. Pioneer 7, which was add-on to insulin, you're seeing a 1.4 again as compared to sitagliptin. And Pioneer 8, with insulin, you're seeing 1.2 versus placebo for 14 milligram of semaglutide. So across, you're getting an approx 1.5% reduction with this drug of HbA1c. Now, if you remember the data that we have seen for most other new chemical entities in the recent years, we talk about 0.6%, 0.8%. Even for SGLTs, we have seen 0.9 to 1%. After a long time, you're seeing something called giving you a reduction of 1.5. That's how efficacious this drug is coming out to be. You look at the data which talks about how many percentage of patients are you able to get to your target A1C of less than 7%. At the end of the day, that's important. We know that if we look at the Indian data, less than 20% of our patients are touching A1C of less than 7% in spite of all our efforts. So you look at the data, of course, this is clinical trial data, and you see numbers for semaglutide anywhere north of 60% in most of the trials. That's the percentage of patients reaching an A1C of less than 7%. So as they say, 7 out of 10 patients in the Pioneer trials achieved A1C of less than 7 with oral semaglutide. You also now go up to see what happens when your baseline HbA1c is more than 9%. And this again is important because very often we're going to land up using this drug, maybe not for a 7.8 or 8 because of various factors, but somebody who really has a higher HbA1c. And here is when you start seeing reductions to the tune of more than 2% in most of these trials where the subgroup analysis for high baseline HbA1c was done. So the post-hoc analysis of these trials tell us that in A1c more than 9, you're getting A1c reductions in some up to 2.6%. Now, this is huge. The only other time that we have seen this is with insulin. So this seems to be the first drug, post-insulin, as an oral drug which has the ability to cause this kind of reduction. You know, all of us have taken lectures, and we used to talk about efficacy, which drug, 0.8, 1, 1.5, anything more than 1.5, only insulin. This is the first time that you're having evidence for an oral drug being able to be as efficacious as seen in these trials. You also look at some exploratory analysis from Pioneer 2, and this is called time spent in glycemic control. This is not the TI or CGM data. This is the amount of time that patients remained at good HbA1c. And when you look across from in this trial versus empagliflozin, you're looking at comparing data at different endpoints, 14 weeks, 26 weeks, and 38 weeks. And you see as compared to an SGLT2 inhibitor, which amongst the oral segment today, post-metformin would be the most efficacious drug that we have. You see that it's 40% greater time spent in good control by oral semaglutide as compared to empagliflozin. What about change in body weight? So you see the change in body weight from beginning till the end of the treatment. And here, you will start seeing numbers 3, 4, 5. So you start seeing reductions almost up to the tune of 5 kgs. And SGLT2, we know, will be 2.53, with the worry that at some point the excess hunger will cause regain of weight. Here it is showing sustained reductions to the tune of 5 kgs. Proportion of patients which are achieving a body weight loss of more than 5%. Today, we are beginning to recognize the impact of 5%. Earlier, we spoke only about 10% weight loss. Today, we know that there can be an apparent difference in the metabolics if you have even a 5% weight loss. So the proportion of patients who are achieving a weight loss of more than 5%, as you can see here, has been, again, north of 35 to 40% across the trial program here. So the post-hoc analysis showing significantly more number of patients achieving a weight loss of more than 5% with oral sema 14 milligram compared to placebo or any of the comparators across the trial program. Now, what about both these, right? As Mithun said, we as physicians are greedy and we want our patients to achieve more. Why not? Not only A1C, but also weight reduction. So the HbA1c reduction of more than 1% and body weight loss of more than 5%. You start seeing the data, again compared to placebo or any of the active comparators, you're seeing numbers in 35 to 40%. So again, in this post-hoc analysis, you're seeing much higher number of proportion of patients achieving both these targets of A1C reduction less than 1 and weight loss more than 5 as compared to any of the comparators used, and of course better than placebo. So what have been the odds of achieving this? Well, if you look at this data in another format, you start seeing the X factor here, and I think that's what is important. Today you talk about the X factor of various things, and let me talk about the X factor of this oral drug. And the X factor is hugely magnified. What are the odds of achieving both of these? It's 9.5 times higher than placebo. It's 2.5 times higher than empagliflozin. It's again 16 times higher than placebo in other studies, and so on and so forth. What about the results from the cardiovascular outcome trial? So we look at the Pioneer 6 data. When you look at the primary endpoint of time to first occurrence of any of the 3 points MACE of cardiovascular death, non-fatal MI, or non-fatal stroke, you get a hazard ratio of 0.79, 21% reduction in 3-point MACE, which was not statistically significant, as you can see here. So there was a reduction, but it did not meet statistical significance. There were certain aspects of this study. There was a high retention and follow-up. 99.7% patients completed the study. This study definitely established the cardiovascular safety. Let us not forget what were the CVOTs mandated for. They were mandated to prove non-inferiority to placebo in terms of cardiovascular safety. That was the primary aspect of CVOTs. You may go a step ahead and want to show superiority like many other drugs have done, but that primary aspect of CV safety was established in the Pioneer 6 as well. We of course have the SOUL trial going on, as I said earlier, which the results will take another 3 to 4 years, which will tell, based on the study design, there are always differences, whether really oral semaglutide is superior in terms of reduction of cardiovascular events. You had some AEs, but again matched across placebo, nothing which was bothersome. So 21% non-significant risk reduction for the cardiovascular endpoints. Efficacy outcomes in this study, again showing as compared to placebo, you had about 1% reduction in this study in terms of the HbA1c, and overall change in body weight was 4.2 kgs at the end of this. And this is important because your cardiovascular outcome trials are of a longer duration. When you look at a 26-week or a 52-week study, it ends there. You see 3-4 kgs. You wonder what really happens when the trial goes on for a longer period. And in a cardiovascular outcome trial, if you're seeing sustained reduction of weight at the end of the trial as 4 kgs, that speaks a lot for itself. Also, we have a pooled cardiovascular outcome data. So you see the data for SUSTAIN 6, which is the injectable semaglutide, which achieved the cardiovascular superiority. And then you look at Pioneer 6, which was for oral semaglutide. And if you do a pooled analysis, now somebody may say, why are you really doing a pooled analysis? But this is in general to establish the cardiovascular safety and to some superiority of the whole molecule itself. If you put the data together, you are getting a 24% risk reduction for the cardiovascular outcomes. Let me move into diving deeper into the Pioneer subpopulations. And we see some of the data from the other studies. What about diabetes duration? What about age? What about background medication? What about race? So when you look at the diabetes duration, right? So this is the you start seeing patients from these trials divided into different age duration pockets. So here you have had patients who had less than 5 years, 5 to 10 years, and more than 10 years. When you see the data from the various pioneer trials, when they've been divided based on the duration of diabetes, you really see no difference in their outcomes. So you look at both the placebo and active control trials, and you see HbA1c lowering has independent of duration of diabetes. So it doesn't matter whether you're using this drug for somebody with 13 years of diabetes or just 2 to 3 years of diabetes, you're going to get similar HbA1c reduction. What about age? Does it matter? Does some specific age group have better results than the other? And then we see the data again for the same in terms of HbA1c by baseline age. You're looking at less than 45, 45 to 65, and more than 65. And it shows that this is again comparable. So irrespective of the duration of diabetes, irrespective of the age of your patient, you're getting good HbA1c reduction. What about background medication? Does it matter if what drug the patient was taking? Is it going to affect the HbA1c outcome? Again, clearly the data seen here, whether the patient was on metformin, sulfonylurea plus metformin, or insulin along with metformin, or an SGLT2 as a baseline, it has not impacted the HbA1c outcome. So even though your patients may be taking any of these baseline drugs, you're still getting a 1.1, 1.3, depending on the baseline HbA1c and the trial, you're getting that kind of A1c reduction irrespective of their background medication. So HbA1c lowering has been found to be independent of background medication. What about change in body weight by background medication? Does that affect? So you start seeing the data again for most of these background medications. You're seeing weight reduction to that similar effect irrespective of the background medication. So weight lowering is bound to happen. Of course, you did not have the glitazones in this study program. Whether the presence of glitazone, does it really affect? I really doubt. Whatever impact of glitazone is stable. This drug has been found to reduce weight irrespective of your baseline drugs here. And finally, race. So does it affect? Now, no, we know that there has been data for DPP4s and SGLT2s in the past showing that they have better efficacy in the Asians. Somehow this was lacking for GLP, and there were statements made that this is not true for GLP, this is only true for DPP4 and SGLT2 inhibitors. And here, from the Pioneer program, we are now seeing data that in the Asians, so there were enough patients who were in the Asian pool for various of these trials, and you start seeing a larger impact of HbA1c in the Asian subpopulation. So these, the ones which have been highlighted now, you're seeing the data for the Asian subjects. And you'll be pleased to see in a lot of these, you see numerically better reduction in A1c in the Asian subjects as compared to the other races that we have compared to. So if you summarize the oral semaglutide trials, well, HbA1c, oral sema clearly superior to empagliflozin and sitagliptin, non-inferior to liraglutide, some may say again numerically better. In terms of weight, superior to sitagliptin, clearly superior to liraglutide. The 14 mg of oral sema has been found to be superior to injectable liraglutide 1.8 and definitely superior to empagliflozin. In terms of the end of trial, oral sema demonstrated significantly greater A1c and weight reductions versus the comparators sita, empa, and lira. Cardiovascular safety has been established even by Pioneer 6. We'll see whether it gets cardiovascular superiority in the SOUL trial. Overall safety in terms of side effects, no major side effects seen in the trial except the most common being nausea and GI symptoms, which you expect with GLP-1s in the first few weeks. Finally, let me talk about where do we fit into a routine clinical practice. Mithun gave me 3 minutes extra, I'll use 2 of them. So ideal patients for initiation of oral semaglutide. Well, clearly when you look at which are the patients where you should consider this drug, patients taking one or more anti-hyperglycemic agent, including metformin, with inadequate glycemic control, we could start considering this drug right in the beginning. You have a patient which has a higher BMI, which has a higher HbA1c. Post-metformin today, you may have considered an SU, an SGLT2, or DPP4. That's the time that you can start considering an oral semaglutide right from there. Patients for whom weight loss would be beneficial, 4 to 5 kgs is what we are seeing. Surely this is the drug for you. Patients in whom hypoglycemia is concerned, well, metformin and oral sema is not going to cause any hypo. Patients already receiving an injectable GLP-1 and not at target, and of course complaining about being on an injectable form and want to shift to oral, well, here's your patient and the choice. Patients with established CVD or at high risk, this drug is safe from CVD aspect. Patients with established renal or hepatic dysfunction, no dose adjustment required, no concerns in patients with hepatic or renal dysfunction. And even in older patients, we showed you the data, even in elderly patients, there are no concerns and you're getting similar efficacy. So potential place of oral semaglutide, when you talk about the recommendations today, the ADA EST, well, everywhere that you've had patients talk about use of a GLP, today, if your HbA1c is above target, you're going to start considering the addition of a GLP, and wherever you're thinking about a GLP, your choice becomes natural today for an oral GLP as compared to injectable. Somebody who has an underlying cardiovascular disease, ASCVD, the algorithms put GLP-1 right up there. They put them even higher than an SGLT2, and SGLT2 probably has a greater priority in patients with heart failure, and maybe to some extent in CKD. But when you talk about ASCVD, it's the GLP-1. And that's again a clear option for the use of GLP therapy and probably oral GLP, though I do agree that the data from SOUL will further substantiate in terms of cardiovascular superiority whether oral sema matches up to any of the injectable GLP-1s with proven cardiovascular superiority. So that's where it's going to start fitting into our system right from early days to anybody with cardiac, renal, hepatic, or efficacy issues, or weight loss issues, or hypoglycemia. So let me summarize that GLP-1 RAs are among the most effective medications for type 2 diabetes, which have shown to reduce HbA1c, weight, and composite outcomes, and overall, of course, the pill burden. Oral sema is a scientific breakthrough in innovation to bring efficacy of GLP-1 RAs in a convenient oral formulation. It's a miracle in itself. Across the global pioneer trials, oral sema proven its efficacy and achieved A1C reduction up to 1.5%. And if your baseline A1C was higher, as we saw, more than 9, you're getting more than 2, up to 2.6% A1C reduction. And weight reduction on an average up to 5 kgs. Oral sema has been found to reduce A1C more than an SGLT2 and a DPP4 when added on top of 1 or 2 oral drugs. And it reduces A1C when even added to insulin-based therapies. So a lot of our patients out there who are today on oral drugs and insulin are struggling to control. Right? The fact is that even patients on insulin, less than 30% of those patients of ours on insulin are still achieving an A1C of less than 7%. We keep twisting that. We go from once a day to twice a day to thrice a day and so on. Well, that's again a subset who's going to benefit extremely by addition of a GLP-1 therapy, and probably oral would be the answer there. In patients with baseline A1C of more than 9, oral sema resulted in a reduction of up to 2.6%. And of course, oral sema has proven cardiovascular safety in the Pioneer 6, and we await more and more trials and data that are going to be released for the oral semaglutide. The efficacy is extremely good, whether you use it earlier on or late in therapy, and regardless of renal or hepatic dysfunction. So with that, let me conclude the journey of trials for this wonderful drug that we all await. And I'm told that January 17th seems to be the date that we're going to finally, all of us are going to get this drug for our use. Right? Correct me if I'm wrong. It's January 17th, right? Thank you all for the patient hearing, and thank you organizers for having me here.